the MP for North West Norfolk. Thanks for joining us this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Chris.
We've spoken to you about this before, and I wonder if you share in the frustration that we still don't have a decision. We still don't know whether the QEH is even going to be on the shortlist for the money for a new hospital.
Absolutely. I'm incredibly frustrated at the delays because the case for a new hospital is compelling. You've heard this morning from the heads of nursing, from patients, the impact it has on staff and people who are in the hospital getting treatment. So we need to keep making the case, and I hope that a decision will come shortly to confirm that we have been selected to be on that list, because it's vital that we have a new hospital at QEH.
So why the delay? What's your understanding? Because I think we've been in positions before where we've been expecting an announcement. It's felt like it's imminent, and it's never come. Can you explain that?
I wish I could. If it was in my hands, we would have had the decision by now. I was told that it would be likely to come shortly after the May elections. That hasn't transpired. When I've raised this most recently, I've been told by ministers that they want to take that decision by the summer recess, which is towards the end of July. So I'm pressing to get them to stick to that date. I know there have been over 100 bids that have been submitted, so they all need to be looked at carefully. Obviously, we know that our bid is very strong, and other areas, as you've mentioned earlier, will be making the same case. But as one of the 5 RAC hospitals in the country that's not currently on the list to be improved, then Queen Elizabeth Hospital has a very strong case with the number of props. We've got over 1,500 props. It's not a good place to be working. It's not ideal for patients who are getting treated there. So that's what I keep doing, campaigning, and that's why I had the minister who's making the decisions on the list at the hospital only a few weeks ago on the ward, on Necton Ward, talking to patients who left him in no uncertainty about what they thought about being in beds underneath these props.
Even the local elections, though, at the start of May, even that was sometime after we were initially hoping for an announcement. Why is it taking so long? Is it the sheer weight of bids that have gone in from other hospitals? Is it the financial pressure of the decision? Does the government have enough money to do what needs to be done with our hospitals?
Well, I think the volume of bids is obviously part of it, because they all have to be properly reviewed before a decision's taken. So it's a fair process. And with any announcement like this, there has to be agreement across government on the list, and obviously the financial implications would be a factor in it, which is why I keep raising it with the Health Secretary again a week or so ago. And the one thing I can do in Westminster, and I am doing, is making sure that every minister, whether they're in the Treasury, the Prime Minister or the Health Secretary, anyone who's involved in this decision, they know that the Queen Elizabeth has a strong case that I keep putting, backed up by the support from people locally, for us to get a new hospital, because that's anyone who comes and sees it, and that's why it's important that the former Health Secretary came. The Health Minister's been there to see it for themselves, because seeing is believing.
You're a Conservative MP. It's a Conservative government. I'm sure you're getting asked about this on a daily basis by your constituents. How difficult is it to keep going back to the people of Kingsland and West Norfolk and saying, look, I still don't know. We're still waiting?
Well, we're campaigning. We're in a campaign. We're in a competitive process. So we've got to keep making the case. That's what I say to my constituents. That's why I think people should take part in the survey that QEH has launched, so that people can explain why they think personally, what their personal view and their experience is as to why we need a hospital. I've mobilised other Conservative MPs across Norfolk, Lincolnshire, Cambridgeshire in support of this case, who are also making it to ministers and to the government. I spoke to them, some of them yesterday when I was at the Norfolk show. So we continue to work together collectively to make the compelling case, because there's so many hundreds of thousands of people who use that hospital who deserve new facilities.
How important are the voices of your constituents, people in Kingsland and West Norfolk? How much of a difference can they actually make by writing to you, just making their voices heard?
Well, it's an important part of the argument to make, that it shows that there is a strong level of community support. People who use the hospital, who experience it, they know better than anyone the state of it and why we need to improve it. So having that support, being able to refer to that when I go and see ministers, the petitions that we've given to ministers and submitted, and being able to show the regular support is important. We're in a competitive process here. So by demonstrating this is backed by the whole local community, backed by Stuart Dark, the council leader, backed by the county council, backed by the institutions locally, the College of West Anglia, where the new School of Nursing Studies is. All of that shows that we've got a very strong case that's recognised across the community. So it helps me when I'm having those discussions in Westminster to show and point back to what's happening in North West Norfolk.
How confident are you we will get a decision within the next month?
Well, unfortunately, we have had deadlines that have moved, so I can't say hard and fast we're going to get it. But what I can say is I'm pushing hard to stick to that date because I want us to know before Parliament rises for the summer that we're on the list. I can't wait to come back on here and talk to you once we're on the list. That's what I'm working hard to achieve with the support of the local community. And I can only keep making the case and hope that ministers will take the decision in the next few weeks. That's what they've said they're aiming to do. So I don't see any reason why that can't happen, but I can't give a commitment that will happen because it's obviously not me taking a decision. If it was, this would have been made some time ago.
In terms of the way hospital buildings are funded, you'll know that in the late 90s we got the new Norfolk and Norwich Hospital, and that was funded by PFI, which the government tends not to use anymore. And I understand it's a way of funding things that has its own issues and not everybody's been happy about. But in the late 90s, we got a new hospital for Norfolk, and it's still functional and successful now. So is that a possibility here? Is it time to revisit that way of funding hospitals rather than all this campaigning, all this waiting for things to happen and competing with other hospitals around the country?
Well, there were big problems with PFI hospitals. If you go and talk to anyone who runs a PFI hospital locked into long-term contracts, which aren't good value for money, they're a way that was used by Gordon Brown to keep the money off the government books. It's not shown to be an effective model. There's been big problems at some of the other PFI hospitals and not actually being delivered. So we've got a process here. There's a new hospital building programme. There's a new national lead who I've ensured that QEH are talking to regularly so that they have that direct discussion about how we can make the most competitive bid that's value for money, which also builds on modern methods of construction, net zero principles. So we've got a hospital that is fit for the future. And obviously there's also investment going into the hospital already. They've secured tens of millions of pounds for the fail-safe work. That's important to keep the hospital safe, as the chief executive said on this programme, is key. And there's investment going into the new eye centre. The minister came and saw that. We've got the endoscopy unit and there's other planned improvements. So there is investment going into the hospital at the moment, but we need that big decision to make sure that we get a new hospital that staff and patients need.
Which we did under PFI for Norwich, didn't we? And I know what you're saying about value for money, but from a Norfolk point of view, there's one part of Norfolk that has got a hospital and there's one part of Norfolk that still doesn't know. So that is a big argument in favour of the PFI model, isn't it?
Well, equally, we've got James Paget that is on the list. So there's a process there. There's a scheme. The government's not going to use PFI because it's not value for money. And that's been proven, as I've said. There's a process there to select the new schemes. And we need to work with that process and make the case and the argument for QEH to be there. We've got the most propped hospital in the country, and we need a new investment so that people have the hospital they need, and importantly, that can meet the demands. Because at the moment, the hospital's too small to meet existing demand, and there's going to be, with more housing in the area, we need bigger hospital. We need a better designed hospital, so the care pathways and the location of different services makes sense, which at the moment it doesn't in a number of places. So all of that points to a new hospital, and the process is there. So that's what we'll continue to go forward with. And QEH has also, they've just signed off the outline business case. It's been approved by their board. So this is a scheme, another point that I make to ministers, this is a scheme that's ready to go, whereas some other hospitals are far behind where QEH already is. So they've been working hard at that, and that was also helpful, and that's why it's been selected as the preferred bid for the East of England. So we'll keep making the argument. As I say, I hope we'll get a decision in the next few weeks, but it's important that people continue to show their support for it.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning, and I think I'd agree with you. It would be nice to talk to you about this when the decision is made, and hopefully we have news of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital being on that list, because it's been a long wait.